fast, efficient and affordable business-grade hosting solutions, domain registration, SSL certificates and more. We also monitor and provide website security and update services, website builds, email hosting amongst other sensational products. If you have a question about your web page or your presence on the internet in general, no job is too big or too small. Visit our website today, or better yet, contact us at blueoceanwebhosting.com.au and leave your website issues to us.
Big ones, little ones, fiddly ones, powerful ones. The ones for the car or the truck, caravan, boat, mobility scooter, solar system. In fact, for any kind of battery, go straight to Battery Central Ipswich. They'll even help you when you know what you need to power but have no idea what'll do the job. Battery Central Ipswich, 280 Brisbane Street, West Ipswich, in the yellow building. Expert advice, better batteries, best prices every day. That's Battery Central Ipswich.
Welcome to episode 761 of the Aussie Tech Heads. This is Will Tompkinson and I'm Jason.
For those who don't know, you're never going to find out.
Shut up, Jason.
Good old Jimmy Giggle. He's does some really cool stuff on YouTube, and it's one of his memes.
You know, I've been planning that all day. I was showing Dad the videos today.
All right.
They had the one with imperial measurements.
Yep.
Start off with what? Something like a peppercorn, and then three of those.
Wheat, grain of wheat. Yeah.
Yeah. 3 of those make an inch. Then 12 of those make. Why can't we make it 10? No, it's 12. Then I showed him a clock. Yes, let's have a clock. It's got 12 numbers on it. Okay, so there's 12 hours in a day. No, there's 24, Jason. Look at my shirt. Jason.
Yeah, I love his stuff. He's really good. Jimmy Reeves on YouTube, check him out. He's Giggle and Hoot from back in the day. He's Jimmy Giggle, but now he's a
he
real
argues
comedian
with himself for fun.
What started in lockdown, he actually was touring as a comedy show. And then when lockdown started, he had nothing else to do, but he had all his ideas. He still wanted to do a free show, but he has twins and then an older son and his wife. But at that time, he didn't want to sort of have them in the public eye, you know?
Yeah.
So he just started doing both sides of the argument, and then he got 3 characters, then he got 4 characters, and now he's got about 45 characters that he does.
And he's got Meanwhile in Australia.
Yeah, he's got Meanwhile in Australia. He's got the Lockdown series. He's got the Girls of something or other, which is like, it's like Trude and Jude or whatever it was out of out of Keth and Kim.
Yeah.
It's sort of like those. And then he's got he's Doctor and Patient one, and he's got Jason, and the other guy is always the person who makes X decisions.
Yep.
So who makes, the decisions on time, or the decisions on money, or the decisions on measuring, or we've got a new one he's just started now, and it's like Miss Clara's fortune telling or something. And so he's fantastic. He actually got that popular. Like, it was just something to kill time. But it's actually more popular than anything else he's ever done. It's so popular, he's actually just rented a studio to start making more productions.
And he's going to go on tours and stuff.
He does tour, yeah. He tours. He can tour now. He does quite a few tours. And he's like, don't bring your kids. It's different.
Unless you want them to learn some very new things.
Yeah, it's no longer giggling. Although he has the guy who plays Hoot, who voices Hoot. It's actually a friend of his, and they actually his photographer for some of the stuff he does. It's actually his videographer.
Oh, okay.
And they went out and did a book signing or something, and yeah, the guy who does Hoot was doing behind the camera. And occasionally, is something a saying or something would pop up that they're used to doing, and you hear from behind this camera, you hear one of his lines sprouting. So yeah, so that's pretty cool.
Stuff.
And you can buy his merch. So his glasses have got, Jason on the shirts, and all that sort of stuff. And
coffee cup.
you can buy Wanker coffee and what is it, Wanker coffee and not Wanker coffee?
Yeah. Not so wanker coffee.
Not so Wanker coffee. Yeah, so you can buy all these sort of stuff. The girls from Brighton, that's what it is.
Oh, right. That makes sense.
They're into the Bobo and the and the what's it? Not Chardonnay. I can't remember what he calls it, but yeah, different wine.
Yeah.
No, he's really good at it. Scaringly good at it, actually.
Shut up, Jason. How have you been anyway?
Well, up and down. More down than up, lately, these last couple of weeks.
Dope.
Obviously we had the floods in Brisbane, and they just started. Well, I started in Gympie and just went down the coast.
Yep.
So I didn't get flooded here. We got flooded in.
They stopped a couple 100 k's above me and started again another couple down Newcastle downwards and like Coffs Harbour upwards, but not our little bend in the middle.
Don't know how you missed out on them, eh? But well, even like inland, like Grafton and that, they copped it all,
Yep.
But yeah, so we got stuck on an island here. We didn't get flooded, but we got flooded in.
Yep.
And I got water damage in my granny flat and garage and stuff, and like the rain was going horizontal at one point. It was actually going under the eaves, and
Yep.
it was going under the eaves and hitting the inside wall from under the eaves and running down the wall. So anyway, I called the insurance company down and put a claim in there, and they said, "Oh, we're back to you in 4 hours."
Yep.
After ringing 2 hours a day for 7 days, I got jacked with it, so I posted on their Facebook, and I posted on somewhere else, and then I filed a complaint with their complaints department.
Yep.
And then the day after that, after I filed a complaint with the complaints department, suddenly they'd ring me.
Yeah.
Funny that.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I finally got through to them and sorted that. Oh, literally, it was a 30-second question.
Yep.
And the damage they've caused by not answering their phone, they've cost themselves tens of thousands of dollars because they didn't have a procedure in place for handling quick questions.
Yeah.
You couldn't even message them on Facebook or anything. Like, they didn't have anybody monitoring their social media.
And all your stuff just kept getting worse.
Yeah, all my stuff's getting water damage and mold, because they literally said, "Don't touch anything. We'll get an assessor contact you within 4 hours."
Yeah.
But don't touch anything because you could affect your claim.
Yep.
Okay.
So you just have to let the mold grow.
Okay, it's the next. Probably by that time, it'll be the next day. Fine, whatever. I can handle that.
Yep.
And then 4 days went past, and I ended up going down to Lismore because most of my family's in Lismore, and they got just completely and utterly obliterated down there. It's insane. You're talking water 2 meters above where it's ever been in recorded history of that town, or between 2 and 3 meters, depending on the part of town.
I saw the PM went and had a look around and said, "Here's a flood," but not a real flood, and farmers know the names of their cows. That was something very important to him.
Yeah, what was with that? I still don't. Actually, a friend of mine actually talked to the farmers he talked to, and the farmer's like, I don't know.
Maybe he was talking to Bessie over there.
It's like, I'm not sure what weeds he's on, but it's not the same weeds the cows eat.
How do we get some?
He might have gone to Nimmin first before he went to Lismore. Nimmin didn't get as badly affected, so they might have had something to...
It's all hydroponics anyway. It would have been fine.
Some old lady walked
They
up
probably had a ton of it growing there.
Some old lady walked up to the car and was like, "Would you like a cookie?
Yeah.
Here, take one for the road."
I like the there was a tweet somebody had posted. When it's Christmas time and you come to our Christmas tree shop and you ask for the special trees, don't get offended by the kinds of things I show you. Mrs. Wilson, because sometimes there's a bit of a cross-mogination of what we're talking about, and I don't want to go to jail.
And yeah, it was like the what was it? The PM? No, the mayor and the governor were there. It was the governor, the premier, sorry, and the PM. The mayor and the premier were there like 2 days earlier.
Yep.
Nobody knew they were coming because they didn't announce it, which was probably smart on their behalf, I guess. They literally like drove up to the street where everyone's working. They got out, tapped some poor guy on the shoulder, shook his hand while he wasn't paying attention, took the photos, and jumped back in the car and left.
I saw somebody was posting videos that the ADF went up there to film themselves helping clean out the last 2 bits of paper or cardboard in a house that had already been completely emptied by the people who lived there and their neighbours. So they just got a camera, set it up. Okay, you go in there, grab a couple of things and walk out. We'll film that and say, look, we helped, and then go.
Most of the ADF went there to set up Tent City for the contractors and stuff who have got to stay there to help clean up. And then disappeared. They bought, I think it was 80,000 litres of fuel for them to use, not for anybody else.
There's no fuel
so all the citizens still didn't have fuel. When we went down on Sunday, I took down 200 litres of fuel with me and 200 litres of vinegar, because that's the main thing when they're washing clothes and stuff like that. You need vinegar to get the smell and the stuff out of them. So I took down 200 litres of fuel and 200 litres of vinegar when we went down on Sunday. And we had to leave at 4 o'clock in the morning because they're predicting massive storms for Sunday afternoon. So we had to be out of there by lunchtime to be heading back to miss these storms, so we didn't get flooded in or flooded out of home. And I didn't get to tour the town. Well, not tour, but I was going to have a drive through, look at my auntie's place because it's at the other side of town from where we come in. And it was under, which everyone thought was impossible. It was so far above the 74 level. It was put on stilts. And it still went under. And so they're just decimated down there. Still. I still haven't had any help. Like there's the SES and whatever, but there's been no military help down there. They've just been driving their trucks around to make it look like they're doing something, but they haven't actually deployed them.
Wasn't it? Dadu was saying you can't expect us to send out the ADF. They're not trained for this sort of stuff. You need trained people like the SES and volunteers who know what they're doing. They're the professionals, not the ADF. They're not trained to do this sort of stuff. Don't expect them to come out anytime you've got some natural disaster that's wiped out a bunch of towns everywhere.
Yeah, or the $100 million or whatever it is that the voluntary organisations still hanging on to that for a rainy day because they didn't release it during the fires.
No, still not.
It's
and the $4 billion the government put aside for it.
It's been raining a fair bit. It's probably a good rainy day.
Nah.
It's all just ridiculous. And then they announced though, the PM announced, oh look, we originally said you can have $1,000, but you can have $2,000 now.
That'll fix your house up.
Yeah. It's like, and the other stuff is you can't apply for most of it because there are loss of property claims and there's other stuff you can do through the government, but it all requires like proof of income and proof of unemployment and proof of this and like most people don't have any of that.
No,
it's all gone.
Yeah,
you can't prove like they want like pay slips and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, some stuff you might have in email, assuming
they went out to sea. If you go swim out there, Mr. Premier,
it'll be out there somewhere.
And while you're out there, why don't you drown?
Yeah, go look for other prime minister that didn't come back.
Yeah,
come back when you find him.
Harold Holt.
Come back when you find him. Not
he
before.
Swims into town. Don't worry, I'll save the day.
Yeah.
Where you been? I was waiting for the wave to come back the other way.
So it's been
and then Dado was like, I'm sick and tired of you people going on about the ADF and taking say nasty things about them. And they're like, no, we're saying nasty things about you.
Yeah.
And the PM. Nobody has anything nasty about the ADF despite what's happened, but
because they're under your control.
Yeah.
They just can't
anytime anyone attacks him, he's like, I won't have you attacking the ADF. They're like, no. We're attacking you, not the ADF.
Yeah, well,
Well, stop attacking the ADF.
When you're dumb, you don't realise you're dumb, do you?
That's the problem. So
it's been interesting the last week and a half, whatever it is.
Yeah. What have I been up to? Buying old computer games on Steam. Sam and Max
hit the road. Still
And
one of my favourite games.
Save the World. And a couple other Sam and Max games. Yeah, they're all being remastered by Skunk Ape, who took over all the stuff from Telltale.
Yeah.
They used to work at Telltale, and now they've got all the IP and everything, and they're remastering everything and re-releasing it. And you can also play some of the old versions of it on your modern computer. They've made them compatible, so that's cool.
Yeah, I something to be said for the old nostalgic versions of games.
Yeah, I'm going to play them as well.
Yeah. It's like Duke 3D. You can play the Atomic Edition, which is re-rendered and remastered to work on new computers.
Yep.
But I don't know, there's something about that older style that's the game. Like, that's how you played it when it came out.
You
like
bottom-feeding, scum-sucking algae eater.
I'm here to kick ass and chew gum, and I'm all out of gum. Yeah, and it's and they did a VR version of it too, didn't they, Sam Max?
Yep.
So
this time it's virtual.
Yeah. It almost sounds like you're heading into Roger Rabbit territory there.
But I haven't got a VR anymore. I gave it away now.
Yeah, actually, that reminds me. I got to get this one fixed too. I got to get another sensor.
I have to wait till Project Cambridge finally comes out and whatever they're going to call it.
Yeah, well, Meta's got one out now. Apparently, everyone's raving about.
That's Project Cambridge from Meta.
That's what I mean. That headset's out, but apparently that one's the one that's out now. Apparently, is only compatible with the metaverse. It's not compatible with games and stuff.
What is the point?
Yeah, I know. Because now you've got to buy.
It's like the Facebook
headset.
phone. Who wants the Facebook phone? Yeah. The Facebook camera. Who wants the Facebook camera? They have the Facebook operating system.
Now you got to buy another one to work on the rest of your games because. I mean, they do it because it has a good battery life and stuff. Apparently, it runs for like 12 hours, and
I see.
There's a few things they do it for, but yeah, no, I need another sensor for my.
Oh yeah.
They're literally a camera, and they've just got an IR receiver in here, and the mask has got IR dots on it. That's how they pick up.
And the controllers too.
Where the controllers are, and the mask is. So this use infrared sensing. That's old technology. Even the old PlayStation 2 one used the same technology.
It's old technology, sir, but it checks out.
They've just increased. It's the same old style technology. They've just increased the resolution and speed at which you can do it.
Nice.
But it hasn't changed in terms of what it does. It's still the same thing.
Yep.
There are hacks where you can use just the Logitech webcam and stuff, apparently.
Oh, okay.
I'm looking into because I've got a million of those.
Give it a go.
Even the connector that goes onto the back of it, it's just a standard USB 3 connector. Like it's just,
okay.
Yeah, nothing special about it. So
nice.
Or USB-C connector, I should say.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't know. There's a push on old games at the moment. I saw actually what we were talking about before the show, the Monty Python collection.
Yeah.
Old PC games. I'd completely forgotten about that and sprang into my mind. I'm like, I had that game. It wasn't really a game. It was kind of
an experience.
Yeah, it was kind of. Did you ever play what's it called? There was another one. It was the something head or something. The talking head. I'm trying to. It came out about the same time as Austin Powers.
Oh, okay.
And it was just like an eclectic collection of concepts of what could potentially be games. And that's what the Monty Python one was, years ahead of its time.
But you had it the flying chicken.
Yeah, flying chicken, flying toasters, jumping sheep. But yeah, there was in the Monty Python one. There was I guess Angry Birds or Flappy Bird or whatever it's called now. Yeah. There was a predecessor to that. involved flying chickens and eating chicken heads.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if that was a reference to was it Ozzy Osbourne or whoever it was who used to bite heads off chickens on stage?
Bit the head off a bat.
No, someone did chickens too, I think.
Yeah, Aussie did a bat because he thought it was a rubber thing that somebody had found at a toy store and they threw it at him.
That's
so
right.
he bit the head off it for fun, and then they're like, "That was a real bat." He's like, "Oh."
But like he didn't know rabies.
And everyone's like, "Yeah, rock, heavy metal, he's biting." And he's like, "No, that wasn't what I was trying to do. I thought somebody had this little rubber toy they threw at me." And again,
good old Aussie.
he probably,
So 12 minutes
in
later, he
his
would have.
mind, he wouldn't be able to determine whether something was alive or not because he was mostly out of his mind.
12 minutes later, he would have forgotten all about it anyway.
Yeah.
Dear.
Suppose we should say thanks to everyone for the subscriptions and tuning in and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and the Patreons and
Kofi.
the coffees and the PayPals and the all the things we get.
Yep.
So greatly appreciate it, guys. It really helps.
Keep it up. You guys
also
rock.
too, I haven't had an update from Kim. I've been slack this week and forgot to ask her how Glenn's doing, but I haven't heard that he's out of hospital yet, so I'm assuming he's still in there. So
Yep.
you guys want to go onto Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or on YouTube and just leave him a message of support and let him know you're thinking of him and probably mean the world to him. So
Yep.
he's yeah, I'll have to get an update from Kim and see how he's doing.
Yeah.
So
See what's going on.
yep.
Should we do some news?
We've tried everything else.
Samsung confirmed a breach of its systems, reportedly the work of the hacking group Lapsus. They're the guys that we were talking about last week who did NVIDIA. Now they've moved on to Samsung, which saw 190 gigabytes of the South Korean electronics company's data, including source code for its Galaxy devices, leaked online. The attack came days after Lapsus breached another big tech business, chipmaker NVIDIA. While both incidents appear to have been mercenary in nature, security researchers believe the gang could be pursuing another agenda too. Lapsus released the Samsung data onto its website as well as posting it on messaging platform Telegram. Today, Samsung confirmed the breach was genuine and said that though source code has been seized by the hackers, no personally identifiable information from employees or customers has been accessed. We were recently made aware that there was a security breach relating to certain internal company data. Immediately after discovering the incident, we strengthened our security system. You think they should have done that before?
Oh, you know.
Turn up the security to 11, guys.
It's better late than never, right?
The information posted online included source code for every trusted applet installed in Samsung's Trust Zone environment, which is used for sensitive information such as hardware cryptography, binary encryption and access control, algorithms for all the biometric unlock operations, and what appears to be confidential source code from US semiconductor company Qualcomm. The attack occurred just a day after Lapsus breached NVIDIA's defenses in an incident where the group claims to have lifted a terabyte of data, including specifications for some of NVIDIA's hardware. Subsequently, Lapsus leaked 20 gigabytes of this data, including the credentials of 71,000 NVIDIA employees. The company said it is investigating a cybersecurity incident which impacted IT resources. And not in this story, but we'll add as well, the guys got the NVIDIA digital certificates that they use to sign their drivers for Windows to say they're valid, and now they write malware and are signing the malware with NVIDIA's digital certificates, which means Windows will think they're certified and install them without any problems.
Well, I don't think they have, but they potentially could.
So,
Or they could, use it to say, just install every computer with a thing that just pops up and says, this will stay here until they release their code in open source. I don't know.
Yep. Weren't they supposed to release a lot more if NVIDIA didn't open source their drivers last Friday?
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look. I can't remember when the cutoff was. It wasn't very long. I know that. This is where we find out it's actually like Apple trying to figure out how to make their phones better.
Yeah. Look at all these guys. They got into Samsung. Nobody's hacked the Apple, right?
Yeah, exactly. Nobody's hacked that. That's a comeback by BlackBerry.
Yeah.
How can we make our next phone better? I know. Let's do what Samsung's doing.
Jason,
Let's do exactly what Samsung's doing. Let's do exactly the same. Actually, you know what? Let's just steal what they're doing. and we'll do it. And then they can't.
Why
'cause
didn't
we'll do it first.
Samsung increase their security before? Jason, you asked such stupid questions.
You don't know what you're talking about. How long have you been doing this? About the same time as you have, sir. Who was it? Was it during the week we're talking about? I can't remember who it was. Someone, and they said that. Was it? I can't remember what it was. And they're saying that their security is incredibly common, well-known security system or something like. Wouldn't that be the opposite of secure?
Yeah, you don't want it to be well known.
Like you can't have. Well, yeah, what was it? Common and prolific or something was the words they used to describe it. I'm like, no, that would be the opposite of a secure system. Like
one of those two words.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was. It was something. It was something like that. It was another government department or something. I'm like, yeah, well, clearly that approach is working well for you.
Keep it up.
Oh dear. Yeah. So. Speaking of vulnerabilities,
I'm feeling a bit vulnerable right now.
we might suffer from a dirty pipe.
Gross.
I don't know why. These names, I'll tell you what. On Monday, a cybersecurity researcher released the details of a Linux vulnerability that allows an attacker to overwrite data on arbitrary read-only files. You know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of in hackers when they go to the trash and he just grabs a random file out of it. It's like, some arbitrary file, that'll do.
Like on hackers where they keep it in the trash file.
Yeah.
That's where all the hacking stuff is.
All the good stuff is kept in trash, yeah. And that's where I keep all my porn for use. Wait. What?
Wait.
Who said that? Right click, empty trash. No! Why does your trash bin have a password on it? It's so people don't delete it by mistake.
Yeah. I love that trash.
The vulnerability, CVE 2022-8047, because that just rolls off the tongue.
Right.
And you think, okay, it's a vulnerable cybersecurity, vulnerable something or other, vulnerability, something, discovered in 2022. No. It was discovered in April 2021.
Oh. So a year ago.
So the I don't know. But then I guess they called it dirty pipe because it was easier to say.
Yeah.
Explain the vulnerability affects Linux kernel 5.8 and later versions, but were fixed in 5.16. Oh, that's right. Linux do this stupid. Okay. So the vulnerability affects Linux kernel 5.8 and later versions, but it was fixed in 5.16.11 and 5.15.25 and 5.10.102.
Uh-huh.
Because
have you got any of those random ones?
Because a 5.1 comes after a 5.8.
Yeah. 5.16. I don't think that's how it works.
No. Because 8 would be 80 if there's no zero after. Technically, a point.
No, that's 80.
Zero. Well, after decimal point, the number, and then infinite zeros. So 8 bazillion comes before 15. And it always annoys me how they do version numbers like that because they don't follow the laws of maths. Anyway, it all started a year ago. A support ticket about a corrupt file. A customer complained access logs they downloaded couldn't be decompressed. There was a corrupt log file on one of those log servers that could be decompressed, but GZIP reported a CRC error. Now, I couldn't explain why it was corrupt, but I assumed the nightly split process had crashed and left a corrupt file behind. I fixed the file CRC manually, closed the ticket, and soon forgot about it. Months later, this happened again and again, and every time the file's contents looked correct, only a CRC at the end of the file was wrong. Now, several corrupt files, I was able to dig deeper and found a surprising kind of corruption. A pattern emerged. Comment went on to show how he discovered the issue and how someone could potentially exploit it. He initially assumed the bug was only exploitable while a privileged process writes the file and that it depended on timing. But he later found that it's possible to overwrite the page cache even in the absence of writers with no timing constraints, with almost any arbitrary positions within the arbitrary data. In order to exploit the vulnerability, the attacker needs to have read permissions. The offset must not be on a page boundary. The right cannot cross a page boundary, and the right cannot be resized. To exploit this vulnerability, you need to create a pipe, fill the pipe with arbitrary data, set the flags, drain the pipe, and splice data into the target file, into the pipe, just before the target file is written arbitrarily by the system.
Sounds terribly complicated.
It does, but basically what they're saying is when the system writes a write-only file, sorry, a read-only file, where it's technically not editable, in such this case as a log file, it doesn't check for security privileges before it closes the file. So what they're doing is they're basically intersecting that file as it's been written. The only thing that the system's looking for at the end of the write is that the file's the right size.
Yeah.
So as long as you can grab the hash data of the file and you know what the file size is before it's completed being written, which you do because the system already knows what it's writing, and you make the file the same size, you can literally put anything into that file as long as the file ends up being the same size. And then if you go to restore it or load it or read it later on, you effectively run the file and you run the program. So if you've got a hacker or whatever in there, by looking at the file, you're running the program. So what you think is a log file is actually some way,
have a Trojan.
whether it's a backdoor in, or whether it's a virus, or whether it's an exploit, but whatever it is you've run, just by, it could be something. I mean, and it doesn't have to be a text file. For example, security footage. You might be writing security footage to a server on a regular basis, like actually I am at work. I have the 80 gig drive just on loops, and it just starts overwriting. That file size is always the same size. The file size never changes. It just continually writes new data to that file. And then when you want to go back and review it, you can just look at part of that file. But it'd be the same thing. You could technically turn that entire 80 gig file into a virus if you wanted to.
Yeah.
And then when you went back and reviewed it, you'd run that file.
That's some nasty stuff.
So basically, it says it can be on any file that gives root level access, but not on So basically, it gives a read-only file by default has root level access because it's read-only. Technically, there's nothing you can do with it, so it's a root access level file.
That's terrible.
So, well, if you think about it, if you've ever opened a log file or something, it's never once entered you to confirm your password to do it, even if you're a guest user.
Yeah. Because
it's only a text file. There's nothing, it's nothing. So.
No, it's not.
So, and then once you run it, generally what they're currently saying generally gets used for is the first thing it does is it elevates its own file to a root privilege, and then it just runs it from there. So.
Yeah. And bye-bye operating system and files.
Yeah, it's an interest. I mean, this is probably one of the first cases of a remote access hack into Linux, or at least a relatively accessible. I mean, there's been cases where it's been this particular version of Java or a particular version of something that's caused the problem, but this is, a kernel. This is a kernel error.
Yeah.
So basically anything that's running, and basically version 5 of a kernel can potentially be an issue. I'm sure they'll patch it very quick.
Update your stuff, guys.
Yeah, and
if you got 5.15, that's later than 5.8, so it should be fine.
The Linux release patches on February 23rd, and Google merged the bug fix into Android, because don't forget it affects Android because it's Linux. And I guess at some point it probably affects Mac OS and Windows too at a deeper level. But Linux released the fix on February 23rd. Android released the bug fix on February 24th. And so basically, so theoretically, if your system's up to date, you should fix it. But if you've got older mail servers or file servers or what are you running?
NAS? Print servers and
print servers and DNS. You've got your ad block server.
Yep.
All that sort of stuff. Anything could even be something as simple as your MAME.
Pi-hole.
Yeah, Pi-holes, or like your MAME arcade. A lot of those run on Linux.
Yep.
So basically, if you've got a Linux system, just check it, make sure it's updated. If it auto updates, I'll do it. If it's an older one or a terminal or something like that, you'd probably have to do it manually. But just be aware of that, because once they're in, and the thing is, they could, and this was the thing that was happening with bot networks for the longest time. People would have access to these computers. but they wouldn't touch them for 6 months or 12 months. And then once they had the 10 million that they needed, they'd do a denial of service attack or something.
Yep.
And the systems were infected 3, 6, 12 months earlier, and nobody knew because it just sat there dormant.
Yeah.
They could be exactly the same with this particular thing. They could be sitting there dormant and just waiting until they need to start up a botnet to do something.
Yep.
So
update your stuff, peeps.
And it's not generally. I'm not a person who updates. I mean, especially Windows, I have auto update turned off. But Linux, I feel, is so inherently secure that they release an update for a reason.
Yep.
Not just an arbitrary, hey, we're going to screw your computer this week.
Yeah.
Windows. Oh, that's what I was going to say too.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got Minecraft on Linux and you have the Java version of Minecraft on Linux, they're offering you a free version of Windows. When you load into your Linux Minecraft, big pop-up screen. If you own Windows 11, we're offering you a copy of Minecraft, and if you own Minecraft, we're offering you a copy of Windows 11. Like, okay, that's one way to market it, I suppose. I'm still not using it, but that's one way to market it.
Tech billionaire Mike Cannon-Brookes and his partners Brookfield Asset Management are set to abandon their takeover of bid for energy giant AGL after the electricity company rejected a second offer worth about $9 billion. Canadian investment firm Brookfield and Mr. Cannon-Brookes' Grok Ventures, cool, nerdy Linux name Grok Ventures, made an increased offer of $8.25 a share, a 75% share increase, 75 cent per share increase from the original $7.50 bid made a fortnight ago. The revised pitch was around a 10% increase on the original $8 billion bid and was made on Friday afternoon. AGL Energy's board met over the weekend and decided to reject the offer. In an update to the ASX on Monday morning, AGL told the market the offer was still well below the fair value of the company. It said the latest raised offer was otherwise materially the same as the offer made in February. AGL's chairman, Peter Botten, said the latest proposal continues to ignore the value of the company's proposed demerger. He said the demerger would create two separate companies that would have a better overall value to the market. Brookfield and Grok Ventures are now expected to walk away from the takeover push. The Canadian firm was funding about 80% of the bid. The consortium is withdrawing from the process to take AGL private and believes that the company's demerger proposal is not in the interest of shareholders, consumers, or the planet, a source close to both parties said. AGL Energy rejected the original $8 billion bid 2 weeks ago, which included plans to accelerate the closure of AGL's major coal-powered stations.
I'm just looking at AGL's current
value.
Stock value. Their current price is $7.20.
Yep.
Which is $1 a share less than they were offered.
Yeah, they were offered $8.20, $8.25.
The highest it's ever been to. Hang on, let me just double check, make sure I'm right here. The highest it's been to in the last 2 years is $7.50.
Yep.
Did get as high as like $8, but that was like
brief
start of 2021.
Yep.
And it's just been on a downhill spiral ever since.
They think if they split the company up, the value of totaling the shares from both companies will be over $8.25 a share. But if they left it as the one company, it would have still been lower than what Grok Ventures had.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, they would have still been trading as in they own the shares to the company, so they would have been trading as individual companies. So, what was their total price? They offered 3.8 billion or something. Didn't they say
9
billion?
Yep.
Okay, so current market value of AGL is 4.8.
Yep, and they're offered $8.25 a share.
Yeah, so it's double what the company's currently worth. They offered, and they'll turn down.
Yep.
It's never been worth that much in the history of the company. The highest the company valuation got was about 8.
You
and
can't
that was like,
get rid of the coal. That's all they care about.
you watch the price tank now once the investors find out that
They got screwed over.
They got screwed over. And they're already going down. I'm looking at it now. They've in 3 days. Payout was, when was payout? 24th. So what, 2 weeks ago? So since payout, it's dropped. Only hit 770 on payout, but it's down to 720. And the last 4 days since that news come out, it's gone down 20 cents. So
Good work.
don't think the investors are happy about that one.
Wonder
It
if
wouldn't
they'll
have
end
mattered.
up suing them.
I actually looked after that. We talked about that, whatever it was, a month ago, whenever they first tried to do it. They're not a bad company. They're a well-established, well-renowned. So you remember Canada's I think it's 85% or something is powered by hydro, just because of the nature of Canada. So they're obviously predominantly a hydro company because that's what they know. But I'm sure they would have had interesting ideas for AGL, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's nothing stopping them from starting their own company, and it's an open market, so technically they could just start from scratch and be done with it. And I don't think it would take them too long to get a decent following, honestly.
Yeah.
So,
Well, they got a lot of money after they sold Atlassian.
Well, yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, do they want the Australian market though? I mean, does anybody want the Australian market? It's not exactly known for its productivity and making money. So, who's heard of Google Stadia?
It's dead, isn't it?
Well,
it's dead, Jim.
I thought it was. I remember doing a story a while back saying that they've kind of given up on the idea. But apparently, let me just check. Yeah, March 21st, 2019 was the future of gaming in a box. Was when they unveiled it. And then not long after that, I'm pretty sure they went, And
one of the guys on my work team bought it when we were in America and took it back to Japan, but he could not access the Stadia store because all the Japanese IPs were blocked because it hadn't been released there yet. So he had to wait until it was available to release in Japan before he could access the Stadia store, and then they were like, well, that's it for Stadia.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It shut down. But Google appears to have built its own solution for running Windows games on Stadia.
Yeah.
Well, like Steam has, really.
Yeah.
Google is planning to detail its Windows emulator for Linux next week at a company's Google for Games Developer Summit on March 15th. Reddit users have spotted a session at the summit that will detail how to write Windows emulator for Linux from scratch. The session will be led by Markin Undek on Google Stadia porting platform team and promises a detailed overview of the technology behind Google's solution for running unmodified Windows games on Stadia. It appears that Google has built its own Windows emulator for Linux to help developers port games to the service without having to modify titles.
Why didn't they just use Wine?
If the emulator runs live on Stadia instead of just testing environments, this could open the door to a lot more games making their way to Stadia in the future. When Google first unveiled Stadia 3 years ago, the server hardware powering the service all ran on Linux. That meant game developers had to port their games to Stadia. Google partnered with Unreal and Unity and even middleware companies like Havok, but there was still some lifting involved for developers to port the games. It now seems that Google has built a solution to remove that work and allows Windows games to run unmodified. Google mentions an emulator here, but it's more likely the company has instead built a compatibility layer compatible with running Windows applications without having to directly emulate them for performance savings. Valve has created its own Proton compatibility layer that allows Windows games to run on Linux by using a modified version of Wine. Proton now helps power the Steam Deck experience by mapping Microsoft's Direct3D graphics APIs to Vulkan. Google's deep dive will include technical details on this technology. Google might not be alone in bringing unmodified versions of Windows games to streaming service. Amazon's Luma game streaming service is currently powered by Windows, but the company's been trying to hire developers with experience in working with Proton. Google's plans aren't super clear right now, but we'll learn more about what they're doing with Stadia next week. So, yeah, Valve obviously created, Proton.
Yep.
Which is what Steam uses.
Which is what we
Proton.
use to play all our Windows stuff.
Exactly, which is it's almost completely flawless. Apart from a couple of issues I'm having on an older computer that only just runs the games anyway.
Yeah. Mine's fine.
I haven't had a problem with it on anything else. Then you've got Wine for the stuff that doesn't run under Proton.
Yeah, and things like Lutris and Play on Linux, which are all built to do the same stuff.
Yeah, and as I said, I was using a couple of different video editing software and stuff as well that using Wine for.
Yep.
And then you've got Amazon that's trying to switch over to basically Proton and Wine, which is Proton is basically Wine is the original Windows emulator.
No, Wine stands for Windows. Wine is not an emulator.
Wine is not an emulator, yeah. But I guess it's not actually. It's a
simulator
parallel
kind of thing. Yeah.
It's an adapter. So it's not really an emulator. It doesn't emulate Windows. It adapts your software to work on your hardware from using a Windows environment almost, but without actually having to boot into Windows. You can run Windows through Wine, and it actually works perfectly fine as well. So you can legitimately do that.
Yep.
But then, Steam come out and created Proton, which was a cut down version. See, if you run through Wine, which is fine, but if you run through Wine, it pops up a thing saying, let's create, you want to allocate this much to a device, to a particular program, and you want to put it in this part of the drive. And it's
a bit
after
fiddly.
it's allocated enough room to the program, then it basically loads the Windows installer and makes it look like Windows, and it kind of, in a way, loads the Windows environment.
Yeah.
Whereas Proton doesn't have any of that. It literally just goes, it's a Windows program. Let's just make it work.
It's all just dynamic. Yeah.
It just does it in the background. And then Google comes along and goes, well, there's Wine and there's Proton, but we don't want to use these free open source programs that everybody else is using.
Which have already been written and out for years and years and very stable.
So let's create our own thing that probably doesn't work on a platform that nobody uses anyway.
Yeah. Way to get people to... I don't think people are going to buy Stadia just because of that. I'd still be worried that it's just going to die.
I think the Steam Deck's got them in that regard.
Yeah.
The Stadia is cheaper than the Steam one, but because the Stadia is like $50 or something.
Yeah.
Like, it's really cheap.
But it's not portable though, is it? It's just a box you plug
kind
in
of
your
is.
TV.
It's not like a handheld, but it's kind of it's basically Chromecast and a controller.
Yeah.
Basically, like, as long as you've got a monitor, it's portable.
I'd rather have a Steam Play that you can plug into your TV, or a Nintendo Switch you can plug into your TV.
Yeah, I don't.
You get the best of both worlds then. What's the point of a Stadia?
And this is the other thing I don't understand, because on the new Samsung and LG TVs, they've changed it from Android TV to Google TV, but apparently they've got Stadia support on the new ones.
Oh.
But they're using, I don't know what they're using, but they've got Stadia's pre-installed on the new Samsung and LGs.
Right.
So I don't know, like, if they're just going. I mean, because the new TVs have, the Stadia ones would have Bluetooth, because that's what it uses for the control. So technically, you just need a controller and you can play games. But I mean, you can do that with Steam anyway, because most new TVs have the Steam app, which lets you remotely load the program. So the difference is, I guess, you've got to have the back end hardware to run a Steam one. But I still don't know how. I don't know. I'm still not convinced that running a game on a server on an internet connection at the other side of the world would give you lag-free play with instant response.
Yeah.
I still can't see how that happens, because even something like the Steam Deck that does a lot of, it does a lot of the processing on, It doesn't do all of it. It does fall back onto the server for some of it, but it does a lot of real-time processing on the machine, and it's designed for it.
Yep.
Something like effectively what's a Google TV stick with a monitor attached to it. It can't do any processing locally.
No.
So I don't know.
If anybody knows, send an email to will@aussietechheads.com.au.
Yeah. I mean, you can, like, Stadia is free to use. Like, you can run it on your phone or whatever. Like, it'll work. And you can trial. So there are some games that are free, so you can trial it and see. I don't know. I think there's too many. So we're getting into that. How many devices do we need again?
Yeah.
You know, like, I can already play all my Steam games on my phone because I just load the Steam client up, and anything that's already installed on my computer under the same account, I can play on my phone.
Yep.
I don't need the Steam Deck. I could use one of those. I can either use the Bluetooth controller, or I can use one of those ones that the phone sits in. And
yeah, well, I mean, I've got the KDE Connect, and you can get the Windows phone system and use your phone to control stuff on the computer on your monitor and stuff as well.
Exactly, and that's, I mean, like, how many devices do you need that literally do exactly the same thing?
I think this was one of those Google 20% things where somebody said, hey, I might do this in my spare time, came up with it, and they said, yeah, let's try and market it, but we don't know who's going to buy it. It's a solution looking for a problem that's not there.
Yeah, well, as I said, like, the difference, I guess, between the Stadia and the Steam and the DS, as you say, they're a different game set, but they're probably not, because all the big companies are going to have the same game on all the platforms anyway, so it's kind of irrelevant.
Yeah.
So how many platforms do I need to play the same game the same way with the same, how much more hardware do I need to play the same thing?
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of, it's not like you're playing in the old days where you had 14 different handheld games, but it was 14 different games.
Yeah.
Even on your phone, even if you stay away from the Steam and the Arcadia and the those sort of stores, there's so many games already available on the Android store.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the games that are on there are available anyway. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's so. We had this problem a few years ago when
it's going to go the way of the Ouya.
Yeah, well, there's that. But we had this problem a few years ago when we had, we've had it with a lot of different things, like with media. At one point, we had all at the same time happening. We had floppy disk, we had CD, we had video disc, we had DVD, we had mini disc, and I think there's another one in there somewhere, all happening at the same time.
Yep.
And because of that, you couldn't, I couldn't burn a DVD and give it to mate because he only had a CD player, but he couldn't burn a CD plus R because my reader only read the minus R. You know what I mean? Like, and then another guy only had a mini disc, and another guy had a zip drive, but you had a jazz drive. And
too many formats.
Like, just stop. There's you don't, focus on getting the existing technology functioning correctly, and then worry about it.
Exactly.
Instead of trying to have 47 ways of doing the same thing, have 3 that work properly. And if you're not one of the 3 that's creating that style of thing, don't try and butt in on them.
Yeah.
Do your own thing that's different and actually gives people a reason. They might go, oh yeah, I think I might use that one instead because it's better.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it just seems weird to me.
When I was in high school, the computers that we had started off with learning was microbees.
Yeah.
And in February 2022, the microbee celebrates its 40th anniversary.
Wow.
Join in for a March of the Microbee, the little Aussie computer that could. March of the Microbee, a series of events at the National Computing Heritage Centre in Croydon, New South Wales, run by the Australian Computer Museum Society, will see original engineer Owen Hill, joined by Ewan Wordsworth, the current Microbee owner, Alan Lawton, historian and Microbee forum admin, and Monty Chan, retired Microbee technician, guiding us through the rise of the Microbee along with stories of the past 40 years, along with a glimpse of the future of Microbee and how this computer still delights and engages its users today. Come and see the series of unique and wonderful Australian designed and built computers. Meet the historians, users and developers, and join us in this informative and engaging event of interactive sessions and hardware show and tell. The Microbee is truly one of Australia's greatest success stories of computing. Relive and share your memories and meet the people who created and continue to develop this wonderful mighty Aussie. March 19th at the NCHC, 9 West Street in Croydon, New South Wales. Tickets are essential, limited capacity. Payment can be made by or in conjunction with a $25 Service New South Wales Discover voucher at the door. Current members, email the secretary for your free ticket via a discount code. All proceeds go towards the Australian Computer Museum Society in supporting events and the protection of Australian and other retro and vintage technology, along with the support and education of the Australian public. Give them support. I'm tempted to drive down to Sydney just for that.
That's pretty cool.
I reckon that'd be a great day out. Because I met Ewan already. We did an interview. Well, I did an interview with him for our Old Fart Geeks podcast. Nice bloke.
Yep.
And I really liked the Microbees. It was really the first computer I ever touched or used, and I was just mind blown. I'm like, wow, this is so cool. Playing Emu Joust. I love to do that at lunchtime and recess every day.
Designed and developed in Gosford, New South Wales, and released in February 1982.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I mean, we still had Microbees even when I started on computers, which was
10 years after.
Well, yeah. Well, I left year 10 in 95, and I think we got rid of the last one. I must have been year 7, so 3 years earlier. So like 91, 92, they're still using them.
Yep.
That's not bad. 10-year service life out of something like that.
Yeah. They still got new ones Ewan is making all the time with new features and newer hardware and stuff like that. It's still
really?
Microbee-like, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they have
There
like a
was
Microbee Pro or something.
Oh, okay. There was a computer store in Lismore when I was growing up, and it was on the corner of Station Road and Union, I think. And it was what they have on the front, specialized in Microbee, Tandy, Dick Smith, Commodore 64 or Commodore, Amiga, Amstrad, and something else, 2 or 3 others.
Yep.
Like it had all the Honeywell.
Yep.
It was a Honeywell dealer. Like it had all these things on the window. Like obviously they'd got into more modern stuff as well, but everybody in the area who had the older computers all took them in there because they specialized in all the older stuff.
Oh, right.
All the old tape drives and the old semi quasi scuzzy floppy disks and or floppy drives and the external stuff. And yeah, they all took them in there. They had a guy prolific with repairing the old monitors, and
Yep.
It was really cool. And it smelt old, like just it had this
nostalgia smell.
Could have been a dozen fights that went through there, but it had this smell. I still remember to this day. It just reminded me of like a library crossed with like an industrial factory. Like it was the weirdest smell. But they had old like manuals and workshop manuals and factory manuals and data sheets and stuff all lined up in the old bookshelf, and it had the old green and black patterned carpet on the floor, and like it was straight out of the 70s. It was fantastic. It was absolutely had all wood grain veneer walls, and had the old it looked like a butcher shop in the front windows. It had the old display front windows with lace curtains behind them.
Yeah.
And they had all these empty shells of the old computers and stuff in the front window. And the most modern thing they had was like a neon sign. They had like a neon advertising sign from like I think it was Amstrad or Amiga or something. Or was it? Yeah, it might have been Amiga. Had the 3 color bars as their logo. Or was
Oh,
it
right.
Amstrad? It might have
Amstrad.
been Amstrad.
Yep.
Yeah, and that was a neon sign they had in the window. And it was
Awesome.
awesome. I think it was there until, well, it was there when I left in '95, and I went back a couple of years later. It was still there, so it was there until at least the late '90s.
Yep.
It was so cool.
Well, I had a look at microbtechnology.com.au, and they call it the Classic Plus Kit computer. Backwards compatible with the older Micro-B range of computers running CP/M and offering a vast back catalogue of software, this new kit has an impressive array of features on a single board, which includes a Z80 processor running at up to 10 MHz, base of 128K memory expandable to 1 MB, Micro-B Premium Series color graphics, SD card storage with floppy disk emulation, floppy disk drive interface option with double and high density support, full travel mechanical switch 64-key keyboard, standard Micro-B parallel and serial ports, onboard efficient switching regulators, single PCB 4-layer design for better signal integrity, Arduino compatible slot option via mezzanine board plug-in, 50-way Z80 bus expansion header. Hybrid kit includes all through-hole parts for assembly and pre-assembled SMD module. Supplied without a case, keeping the cost down, and sits on rubber feet, but designed to fit in a Micro-B Premium Series case if you have one already. Cost-reduced design which compared to the Premium Plus kit. The pre-assembled sodium module takes care of the screen control logic along with the SD card operation and floppy disk emulation. And the sodium socket and 4 other components are surface mount components and get soldered on the board prior to shipping, so no need to worry about trying to solder fine pitch SMD parts. And the Arduino compatible expansion shield option fits to the main board and has a GPIO driver chip and 6-channel ADC. So that's just the classic one.
But the funny thing is, like, even though they've got all that in it, it's still smaller than the original board.
Yeah.
Because like it fits in the same case,
Yeah.
but it's much smaller than, because the
More
original
stuff.
board went right under the keyboard and everything. Like it was, this just is like, it's actually the board smaller than the keyboard.
Yeah, yeah.
The original one went tucked right, well, basically filled the entire case. That's why the case was the size it was.
Yeah.
It was to hold the motherboard. There's actually a guy I was watching on, I'm pretty sure you can get it on, wow, I haven't complete blank. That place you go to get all the 3D printed models. Wow. Anyway, Thingiverse.
Yep.
On there, somebody has, well, I'm assuming there's a Micro-B because I know that there's an Amiga 500 and a Commodore 64 design that you can print a case for.
Ah, nice.
So I'd imagine there's a Micro-B one in there you could print the case to fit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know how much, it doesn't have a price on how much that is, but no, hang on, go to the store and have a look. Let's see. Development boards, merchandise, kit computers. Here we go. Kit computers, premium plus, premium. That's the upgrades. Adapter kits, replacement kits. Yeah, they don't have the actual price of the that system on there, but it's, well, there you go. There's a CGA to HDMI converter.
Yep.
Because you'd need that. PS2 adapter kits, just basic stuff like that.
Yep.
It's a pity they don't have, or have I just missed it? I don't think it's on there. I'm curious to see how much they actually are. Oh, there you go. You can still get 5 1/4-inch floppies.
Yeah.
5-pack for $12.50.
There you go. That's all right.
Almost worth buying a 5-pack just to have.
Yeah.
Just to show people what they are.
See what I got.
That's actually not bad. That's about what I remember paying for them 20 years ago.
Right?
Not much has changed there.
Verbatims.
These are Nashuas.
Nashuas, they were good.
The ones with the round circle with the pink, the pink, blue, green, red circle dividers. Yeah. Yeah, I actually like those because they were cheaper, but they seem to be just as good. They got the EPROMs and they got all sorts of stuff. Wow. Okay, cool. They sell all the chips individually as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's amazing that how a lot of that old stuff is still around, honestly.
And still popular.
I'm glad that it's still an active You know what I mean? Like, it's an Australian company, and most Australian companies, especially the old ones like this, they don't adapt. They just fade into nothingness.
Yep. Yep.
But obviously, these guys have realised, hey, there's actually somewhat of enough of a market to
Keep going.
you know, it's not like we're going to be selling computers anymore, but you got to think if they've got, I don't know, let's say that kit's a couple $100 and you sell a couple a week, it's not bad pocket money, you know.
There's a lot of us oldies who love the nostalgia.
Yeah, exactly. And if nothing, I mean, it'd be good to get some of these unassembled kits because they're a good way to learn if you want to learn how to solder and want to learn how to read diagrams and learn how to, check out your components to make sure you're using the right ones and all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
Getting these sort of kits is a great idea for that because they're so well documented that you can learn and you end up with something functional at the end of it.
Yeah.
So many practice solder boards are literally just like, oh yeah, just solder these resistors into this board and you end up with a board full of resistors you can't do
You
anything
get
with.
flashing lights. Got to have the flashy lights.
Some of them do, yeah. And that's like the old Tandy kits were fantastic back in the day.
Yep.
J-Cart try, but they're not great.
They had
but
Dick
something
Smith
this,
ones.
yeah, they don't do them anymore.
No.
Dick Smith does nothing electrical, and Tandy and Dick Smith used to be competing on that level. But then once Tandy closed its doors, Dick Smith went, "We don't need to sell any of this stuff anymore. We won."
And now they're owned by Kogan.
And then I guess the closest to that would be Radio Shack.
Yep.
But I don't even know if there was a Radio Shack in Melbourne when I was down there, but I don't even know if they're anymore.
Don't think so.
J-Cars, yeah, I mean they have some stuff, but nothing. Not Tandy level stuff.
No. Thanks for listening to the Aussie Tech Head Show. We can be found at Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Patreon and Coffee. Email us Will or Warlock at aussietechheads.com.au and go to aussietechradio.com, 24/7 playback of tech-related shows. See you next time.
Bye.